Hi, today I'm going to show you how to make a Christmas sign using only paint, plywood, and your computer printer. So join me, will you? So the Christmas sign I'd like to make today is made from my 2x2 piece of Luan, and I printed out my words from my computer in the font I like, in the size I like. And you might have to play with that a little bit. You notice I had to cut and paste some certain pieces here because it didn't fit on all my little sheets of paper. I feel that this saying here pretty much describes this year. The weary world rejoices. I don't know if you can see that because it's kind of big. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to pull this off and I'm going to paint my sign. What I'm using today is top-notch paint from Michaels. It is very inexpensive and really good quality. This is a matte white, and I decided to go with a matte white because it's so much easier to transfer your designs if it's not a shiny surface. So I'm going to paint this, speed up the film a little bit, and we'll go from there. Okay, now while my paint is drying over here, I decided to start doing my poor man's carbon paper. Here's my sign, and as you can see, I've pieced things together, but when you turn it over on the back, you can see where some of my stuff I had to do over. So rather than waste paper, I just flipped it over on the other side and printed the words in the font size that I want. Now this is Magnolia Sky font. I'm not quite sure what size I wound up with, but it was trial and error, and you can see I wrote 22 by 22, which is the side to side, end to end measurement. So I knew that my 24 by 24 piece of Luan paneling was going to work. Now what poor man's carbon paper is nothing but a bunch of lead pencils here, and you can see I've used some up already, but I usually grab a whole bunch of pencils and use those and then sharpen them all at once rather than taking one pencil and sharpen it over and over again. But I kind of traced on the outside of what my words are going to look like, or where they are. I held it up so I could see through it as to where the words were. Kind of drew a line around it. Otherwise, I would have had to do the whole paper, and that kind of is a waste of time. Let me use a pencil that's got a little bit more lead to it. And all I do is just go through and scribble in as much carbon in the area as I can. This kind of gets out frustrations. Remember when in kindergarten when you were learning how to color inside the lines, but everything inside of you just wanted to scribble it out. Well, now's your chance. Oops, get over the edge of my paper. And as you can see, this is pretty much how it goes. Sometimes I go one way and then go back the other, just to get a good covering for my words. I learned this when I was taking art classes as a much younger person, and carbon paper was really pricey back then. I'm not sure why. Maybe it was made out of something different as it is now, but now it's hard to find. So going back to this method is kind of a win-win anyways. So once I have all of the back part scribbled with my pencil, so I make sure that I have all of it covered from the back side. I taped it down to my board so it wouldn't move. It's kind of important because if you move just slightly, it won't turn out right. Also, be very careful not to lean or rub on it because it will also transfer onto your board. But if that happens, this being pencil, you can erase it pretty easily. And that's why we use acrylic paint and not another type of paint like house paint to do our signs. I have learned that the hard way. So passing the savings on to you. So first I put on my cheater glasses, and I'm going to start down here instead of reaching across. Always do it as comfortably as possible. If you are not in a comfortable position or your hand is not in a comfortable position, you are more likely to screw up your project. I have learned to spin things, turn things around, get it as comfortable as I can. If I can't do it sitting, I'll stand, get it as close to me as possible. And I suppose I could have picked an easier font, but this is one of my favorites. I got it free from Pinterest. I never pay for my fonts. I always go on Pinterest, type in free fonts, see what they have, and most of them are downloadable right to your computer. So it's nice to be able to have a whole bunch of different fonts. To use for whatever you want to use it for. So through the magic of video, I love it, I have traced all of my words, and I'm going to pull it up to see what it looks like. This is kind of the unveiling, if you will. Stuck. Okay. Well, as you can see, it's transferred onto my board, but I see that there are some pieces that didn't transfer over as dark as I would like. So thankfully I kept the one end taped. Maybe. Let's see if I can pull it back. Oh, for heaven's sakes. There we go. Let's see if I can pull it back, line it up. Let's see, it's the W on world. If I can line this up just enough, we'll see. I'm going to scratch it in a little deeper. So the magic of video isn't always so magical. Okay, let's see if that's any better. Well, actually it is. I'm going to kind of sloppily put it on there just so I can see my letters. Okay, great. That looks pretty darn good. I'm going to remove it totally. And you probably can't see it so great on the video. There's a few things that just kind of need to be cleaned up a little bit, just so I can see how it looks. And if you notice, my paint got very bumpy, and that is totally my fault. The paint was great, but I forgot I had done a project with glitter and dumped it back into the bottle, so now I have lumpy paint. So don't have lumpy paint when you do this. It'll work out a whole lot better. Okay, so I think I have it cleaned up as much as I need to. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I could go ahead and paint this right away and it would be just fine. But if you take a Sharpie marker, if you're going to paint it black, take a black Sharpie marker. Otherwise, don't take a Sharpie marker. And you outline all of it. It makes it so much easier to paint it in. Don't ask me why, it just does. I think it gives it a cleaner line. Ugh, all those bumps in my paint. Well, it's the Weary World, so I have my Weary board. Normally, Luan is a very smooth type of paneling board. And, excuse me, and I think it was $4 and some odd cents is all this board cost me. And if you was to go into a store and buy this sign, it would be a whole lot more than $4. Plus, doing it this way, you have ownership. Which, I don't know about you, but to me that's kind of cool that I can say, oh yeah, I made that. Okay, I'm going to turn the video off one more time, trace around my words so you can see what it looks like. Once I have all my letters outlined with my marker, now it's time to paint. And make sure you have all your stuff ready before you start painting, because if you're like me, you'll have to get up and down a few times just to get everything you need. So I have paper towels, which is kind of important because I am a little messy. In fact, I'm going to take one of those now. Just put it in my lap for when I need it. My favorite paintbrushes, and I know it's kind of funny, but my favorite paintbrushes are watercolor brushes. This one especially, just because it gets into these small lines that I need. I also have a glass that I poured my paint into, and again, using some of my favorite paint. So let's get started. Again, also, do not paint here and hope to go here so your arm gets into it. You want to keep things as comfortable as possible. Let's see, and let's start. Having the marker outlining things really helps to get a crisper line, I think. I don't know why, but it's always been my go-to. Tell you though, the next time I make a sign, I'm not going to use that white paint. It's made things quite bumpy with all that glitter in it. I was making a couple of Christmas ornaments, and I thought, well, I'll do the glitter technique first. Well, I didn't read what you're supposed to do. I just thought I'd try it on my own, like I normally do, and first time is always a failure. But this time I ruined a whole thing of paint with it, so trust me, I threw that out. But the next time I do a sign, it'll be with better paint. That looks pretty good. What do you think? All right. I think this is going to turn out okay after all. Maybe I'll use it as an outside sign since I've messed up the white paint so much. Best part about this is the whole thing cost me, if you don't count the cost of the paint brushes and all that, this is all stuff I had already had. It only cost me $4 for the board, which is pretty economical. And if you want to make a bunch of these signs, say to give as Christmas presents, that is a way cheaper option. All right, getting around my corners here. There we go. Oh, I think this is going to be really stunning when it's done. I'm going to turn off the camera again, finish this up, and then I'll be back. putting the finishing touches here. Looking around to see if I got everything, and there you go. Looks pretty darn cool. And who knows, with all the glitter on there, I might just add a little more so it looks like it's supposed to be there all along. So if you decide to make a sign, I'd love to see what you come up with and the finished product. So please drop me a line. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much. Bye.